everyone, thanks so much for joining me. In this video, we're going to cover downward facing dog, a frequently done pose. So frequent that almost regardless of the class that you take, and if you're brand new, it might be assumed or taken for granted that you're familiar with the pose. And there is so much going on in downward facing dog, and it is a transitional pose. You go through downward facing dog into many other poses. So we're going to explore entering downward facing dog from an extended child's pose. We'll explore the sensations, the things we're looking for in downward dog. Just a visit of what it looks like to shift from downward facing dog to plank. To do single leg downward dog, maybe single leg to setting up for other poses like lunge, warrior two, warrior one. That transition from downward facing dog to bringing the leg forward is another thing that is often taken for granted and truly not that easy. So I'll try to give you some tips maybe to help, to assist, and just ways of working around any limitations that you might feel you have that you really shouldn't be focused on or worried about. You should just be able to feel like you know how to transition, how to enter in ways that don't feel awkward for you, okay? So we're gonna head back here to the mat and setting up an extended child's pose because it is a great way to ease your way into downward facing dog. So in child's pose, just in general, you could have your knees together, knees apart, okay? But since we're setting up for downward facing dog, you could go ahead and tuck the toes under and have your shins set up so that they're parallel to each other, okay? So I'm gonna exaggerate the tilt, and you can always precede downward facing dog or any poses, with a little bit of movement, hips side to side, rounding, and then lengthening, things that feel good to you where you feel like you're ready to take it up a notch, okay? But with the toes tucked under and that tilt in the pelvis with the tailbone going back and up, slowly send your seat back. So the first thing I recognize for myself is that I always have tightness in the inner area where my thighs and hips connect. So in the groin area, it can be quite just tight and I can feel distracted by it at times. So something that helps is engaging the inner thighs. You could pretend you have a block in between your thighs. You could put a block in between your thighs. Okay, so I've got to engage my legs in such a way that it allows for the length of the spine. So I need thigh bones in my hip joints. Ultimately, they're not yet there, but I'll need my arm bones, the head of the arm bones, and the shoulder joints. So I'm going to walk my hands forward here. You could be on fingertips or with your palms down, just for now. But you're looking for length, and you might be able to recognize, it's really subtle, so I try not to take it for granted, but that whether your inner thighs are engaging or not, you want to feel that the inner thighs are engaging, partnering with the base of the glutes in such a way that you can lengthen. And that's just going to be a continual process. So anyway, so just varying between palms, fingertips, so I'm just stretching out. And now I'm going to focus on my back to pull each head of the arm bone back into the shoulder joint in such a way that I can then get longer around the neck and a lift, because here I am dumping and feeling a lot of tension around my shoulders and neck, and here I'm pulling up and able to lengthen. So I need to connect the arm bones to feel snug in the shoulder joints so that the sides of my torso, back muscles, can all engage. If my shoulders, my arm bones are ungrounded and they're out of my shoulders, living like this in the pose, then I can't connect. Even if I connect it a little, it wouldn't be very effective in providing stability in the pose. Okay, so we want to feel anchored. Then we can explore, okay, the length, but we need to feel stable. If your toes are getting tired, you can tap them out, okay? I tend to talk and talk and talk and talk, all right? And then re-enter as you feel ready. I'm reaffirming, okay, so that exaggeration, okay, don't pinch, all right, but just get enough where you know you're not in a tuck, okay? So you've got a little bit of that extra tilt, engaging the inner thighs, sending the seat back, walking the hands forward, spreading the fingers, rooting down at the inner edge of the palm out, okay, so we're even, hugging the head of the arm bones and the shoulder joints, pressing across the hands so I can feel the sides of my torso engaging, lengthening, maybe feeling a gentle ab engagement, okay? And then lifting the knees. Hopefully you can still hear me well. I just want to make sure, okay? And reaffirming everything. So I always start out with my knees slightly bent, okay? You might reference chair pose here, just kind of thinking about it, bent knee. Downward facing dog definitely relates to chair pose. So we're pulling those thigh bones back. You could imagine that your heels are at a wall, getting that strength in the glutes, engaging the inner thighs, base of glutes. My shoulders are still not quite right. So I really want to affirm, not tense, but affirm the head of the arm bones in the shoulder joints. So I can engage my sides, lengthen my torso, lengthen all around my neck, maybe straightening the legs, okay? But really seeking space and length. Smooth, deep breaths. And then carefully, and if you can, you want to simultaneously lower the knees down and release. So we're going to be doing that again. Okay, again and again and again. But I just want to talk about a couple of things. And I don't have this situation, but a lot of people do, where they're very mobile in their elbows. And their elbows, their arms will bend in, okay? They'll be here. I wish I could show it. Well, I'm probably glad that that's just another challenge to deal with. So I don't have the hypermobility, but if you do, what you just need is just an awareness, okay? And it's hard to be aware because there's less feeling. The more mobile you are, the less feeling you get, and I'm asking you to be more aware. So there's the challenge of it. But either way, so that you don't feel that you're locking the flow, that you're blocking off, right, that channel, it needs to appear straight. For a hypermobile jointed person, it won't feel straight until the elbow goes this way. Each elbow goes in toward each other, but it will look really bent. So you need it to look straight so that the wrists, the elbows, the shoulders, the neck don't all feel congested. The joints are like, I always think about a hose, so you've got a hose, the water's flowing through it, and if you pinch the hose, it stops the flow. The elbows, the joints, any point can get pinched and really stop the flow, and it will push the pressure either down or up, okay? So a lot of the time when somebody is hypermobile in their elbows, they won't feel a problem there necessarily, they'll feel it here. In their wrists, it's like they're fatiguing in their wrists because the whole position is not working efficiently, and the stronger, more powerful muscles are not able to support and take hold. It's all getting pushed back down to the wrists. How unpleasant is that? And then they're frustrated and they have to come out, and then they're looking around the room. Everybody else is in down dog. What's wrong with them? Nothing, just the body's not getting a chance to tap in to its full power, all right? So you really want to pay attention to your joints, that they feel that right balance, okay? That sense of they're snug. You're not so back, pulling the arm bones back that all the tension's coming up, okay? So we need everything to almost to float, okay, to sit well in the joint, and then the muscles can all support. So when the thigh bones are snug in the hip joints, the inner thighs and base of the glutes will secure it. When the arm bones are well positioned in the shoulder joints, then we have access to all these muscles in the back, to the sides, right? And then when that all is working together, the abs have this gentle engagement and lengthening, okay? Everything just feels integrated. The pose is very alive, and you're just feeling and tweaking and adjusting and getting more and more and more out of it. And fatigue occurs later and later and later. You get to be in the pose longer as the body works more efficiently and gets stronger, of course. But I would put efficiency of the work before strength, okay, as far as its significance. There are a lot of strong people who will fatigue very quickly in any particular pose because the body's not getting to tap in to its most efficient use of the strength, okay? So, long lecture on that. Again, you can enter it from extended child's pose. Okay, you can also just come onto hands and knees and step into it. Okay, either way, the hands need to be forward. The wrists are forward of the shoulders. A couple things I didn't mention earlier, but you could have either your middle fingers pointing forward. You could have a slight turn here where the index fingers are pointing directly forward, but you do want to set it up in such a way that there's no congestion at the wrists. And for a lot of new students, they tend to put their hands too close together, and that really makes it limiting in the shoulders. So I would err on the side of too wide and too long. Okay, so you want to have space. All right. So we're rooting across the hands evenly. We're getting happy wrists, happy elbows, happy shoulders, drawing the head of the arm bones into the shoulder joints, connecting with the power in the sides, lengthening the neck. I'm not going all the way back into extended child's pose, but you can. Tucking the toes under, engaging inner thighs, base of glutes, pulling that energy upward, pelvic floor to the belly button. Might make my stance a little longer. Belly button to between the shoulder blades. Lengthening, okay? From between the shoulder blades to the sternum. From the sternum to the throat, to the base of the skull, to the crown of the head. Really check in. Check in with the sensations of the neck. Okay, so a couple breaths here in downward facing dog. I talk a lot in my classes of the energy coming upward, the energy coming in toward the midline. And once you connect to those two things, then from the center line, you can direct energy out. Get that feeling, seek that feeling of the joints feeling free, the surrounding muscles supporting. Now exploring, okay, so feet coming closer together as we transition. Lift that right leg, back and up. It might not come this high, that's okay. Bend the right knee and bring your foot all the way forward. It might seem very far. Okay, so for a lot of students, it's gonna stop right here. Here's a way. You take hold and you go forward. Or you take a knee, the other knee down, take it forward. Okay, you make it work, and don't worry about it. You make it work for you in a way that feels safe, okay? And then you step back, maybe from, first you bring the back knee down, or maybe you step back. I have to do a little bit with my fingers here. I lift my palms up a lot of the time as I transition. So you might rest, and then try this again, okay, where the feet are together. You have length in the spine. Lifting the other leg, bringing it forward, okay? Or helping it forward, okay? So other videos are there for lunges and all these other poses that transition. But it's a good thing to practice down dog. And how would you transition? Taking a leg out, up and forward. What are your strategies going to be? How do your hips respond to it? There's single arm downward facing dog, all sorts of things you can do. There's single arm, single leg, where you're in down dog with only your opposite hand and foot are on the ground, and then the other two limbs are up. I mean, there's a lot, and you want to feel that you at least have a sense of where is your sensation. So are you congesting, in the joints? Is it mostly in your upper body? We want to feel the majority of our strength in our larger muscle groups. So the glutes, the thighs should be really powerful. The back muscles, okay? We have lengthening here. Strength in the arms for sure, but they are not what's bearing the most of the weight in this pose. A lot of the time I'll say, 60% for the lower half, 40% for the upper half, as far as the distribution of the strength in the pose. So a very challenging pose to practice, a fundamental pose, a pose that we teachers often take for granted, that new students are overwhelmed by, easily overwhelmed by, understandably overwhelmed by. So I hope that you find this resource helpful. There's a lot more potentially to explore. I might do a downward facing dog too, because there's a lot of cues I could give. But what I really want you to focus on most is the sense of freedom, sense of lightness in the joints, appropriate effort in the muscles, so that you can breathe so well that when you exit the pose, not only are you relieved maybe, but you feel its positive benefits. That's what we're looking for in every pose. Does it feel obviously purposeful? Okay, so I hope it's helpful. I'd love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.